an original MCM production.
And I'm pleased to call on Susan Lloyd, the Executive Director of the Zilber Family Foundation, to introduce our speaker. Susan?
Good afternoon. Jonathan Jackson is the Artistic and Executive Director of Milwaukee Film and has been that since the first film festival in 2009. He leads the selection of films for the festival, develops the program, manages the 15-day festival, and coordinates over 500 annual events. Thanks to his visionary leadership, the Milwaukee Film Festival now ranks in the top 10 against its peers nationally in terms of attendance, the number of films, the revenue earned, all this despite being one of the youngest film festivals in the country. Jonathan previously served as Artistic Director of the Milwaukee International Film Festival, directing film programming there since its inception in 2002. He has taught courses for the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Film Department. He's curated film programs for the Milwaukee Art Museum. He's been a freelance journalist and served as program manager for UWM's Union Theater. Jonathan Jackson lives in Shorewood with his wife Sarah, his daughter Ella, his son Owen, and his cat Carmela. He moved to Milwaukee in 1998, originally from Cleveland, to attend UWM's film department. It's our good fortune that Jonathan remained in Milwaukee and today contributes to the city's vibrant culture, what we heard as the joyful and beautiful realm. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Jackson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just a quick question to start. Show of hands would be great. How many people have attended the film festival in the past? Not bad. Doing pretty good. I remember a few years ago I'd see one or two hands, so we're growing quite a bit and very excited about that. The festival will begin this year on September 22nd. Unfortunately, we can't announce yet our opening night film. We have about a fourth of the lineup announced so far. mkefilm.org is the place to learn all about the lineup and the films in the festival. But it begins with a single presentation in the Oriental Theater. I know most of you, many of you, maybe all of you have been to the Oriental Theater before, but it is absolutely one of the jewels of architecture in this city. One of my favorite experiences with the festival every year is bringing in filmmakers and guests. We have, hundreds that now come to the festival to present their films, and they may have their preconceptions, I like to call them misconceptions about what Milwaukee is. But when they come in, you kind of have to pick their jaw up off the floor when they go to the Oriental Theater and see that gorgeous 1,000-seat auditorium packed with enthusiastic attendees. So the festival begins with that one night, and then we have a big fun party with our partner, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, in their Kenilworth building, and then we begin. This year's festival will feature around 350 individual films, but the films are just the beginning. We actually do around 150 to 200 additional events that you can attend all in those 15 days of the festival. And it runs through October 6th this year, so a full 15 days. We now have film venues across Milwaukee. We're at the Oriental and Downer Theater on the east side. We're at the Times Cinema on the border of Milwaukee and Wauwatosa. We'll be in Bayview at the Avalon Theater and at the Fox Bay Cinema Grill on Silver Spring Road. As was mentioned in the beginning, we've had tremendous growth of the festival. We're only now entering our 8th year, and as we had said, our attendance now rivals in the top 10 of our peers in the country, and you can see the great trend in attendance bringing us to over 70,000 last year. And we're very excited. Advanced ticket sales are up 17% over last year, so continuing to show great growth. This is the study we had done comparing us to peers across the country, and the single fact that jumps out to me the most is we are by far the youngest. And I think it's a testament of the vibrancy of this community, the energy of our organization, our partners, our board of directors, our staff, but most of our peers are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, and we're also in one of the smallest media markets of the studies we did. One big important piece of the festival. So we'll have around 350 individual films. What helps is that because of that, the festival becomes an unparalleled cultural event wherein each of those films comes from a different place in the world, a different place in the country, from a different filmmaker. And so it's incredibly culturally diverse in terms of the actual content presented at the film festival. Plus it's movies, and everybody experiences movies, all ages, on your phones, at home, in the cinema, but it's a really easy access point for audiences all across Milwaukee. And so what we try to do at the festival is actually, we're what you would call a best of film festival. So when we try to select films for the festival, we have 15 different programs that we put them in, but we always go back to, is this going to give Milwaukee the best experience of cinema they can find anywhere? And so our average audience rating for films in the festival is actually 4.5 out of 5 on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being poor, 5 being excellent. And we just have amazing customer feedback because of that. We're at an unparalleled height of filmmaking. The technology and the technological access means there's more films being made today than ever before, meaning hopefully more good films along with that. But it also means it's so hard to find that good content. But what we do is work all year round, travel the globe looking for the best content possible to screen here in Milwaukee. A few of the programs that we have in the festival, so it's very daunting. If you've seen the program book before, this year it'll come out the weekend of September 2nd. It's almost 300 films you've never heard of. And so how do you pick a film to see? And so we have 15 individual programs that are thematic. If you're really interested in dining and food culture, go see our Film Feast program, which will feature 6 films, mostly documentaries, all around food and contemporary culinary style. We launched a new program this year that I'm very excited about called Sports Ball. One note that wasn't mentioned in the intro that I'm a little disappointed at Susan for, but I did mention that I'm still a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, so usually that gets cheers in rooms like this. But we have a new program we're launching this year called Sports Ball, which is 6 sports documentaries. One classic, the documentary, Oscar-winning documentary, When We Were Kings, which was about the rumble in the jungle when Foreman fought Ali. So in commemorating Muhammad Ali and his life, showing this film, but also a documentary on the history of the fastball, a documentary on a girls' female lacrosse team. A really diverse lineup of films, all for sports-themed entertainment. In addition, we have an American independent cinema program. We have a family program, which is really one of my great joys of the festival. Last year, I brought my 2-year-old daughter to the Rated K for Kids short size small program, which technically broke the rules. You have to be 3 to 6, but I snuck her in. But literally families coming with their children to come see educator curated movies and experiences that really bridge the festival to all audiences. And it's our goal to make sure that we satisfy the entire community of Milwaukee with the festival. Funny films, dramatic films, 3-hour black and white Hungarian films that only I will like. So really going across the board in terms of the content. As we had said, education is a key. aspect of the festival. We receive foundation support to run really rich education programs. We have over 9,600 students RSVP'd to go to private school group screenings at the Oriental Theater from September 22nd to October 6th. Avoid Farwell Avenue around 10 a.m. Many of you may have seen it before, but that's when there's like 40 buses out there and the staff is running around getting hit by cars. But the cops actually help us great, so thank you, MPD. But the students come and see a movie with their peers throughout Milwaukee. We develop education curriculum materials so they can tie it back to the subject matter of the films. We also have a Real Talk programs where the visiting filmmakers for the festival go into schools throughout the community, show a clip of their film, and then dive into a career as a filmmaker and that potential with the students in the class. Have great feedback on that from the teachers and participants. Another key aspect of the festival is our support of the local filmmaking community. This year, every year, we show around 60 films that are actually made by Milwaukeeans, filmmakers living in the M7 region. I think that our festival shows more than almost any other film festival of our kind, and what's exciting is they're some of the most popular attended programs in the festival. This year, in terms of submissions for the film festival, we had a 56% growth in terms of the number of films submitted by local filmmakers. So it went from about 160 last year to about 250 this year. So it just shows that this community is growing. Last year, in partnership with the BRICO Fund, we launched a granting program where now annually we give $50,000 in cash and about $100,000 in goods and services to filmmakers to complete their next projects. In addition to that, just because I saw him here, we haven't announced this yet, but one of the filmmakers featured in the festival is here, Joe Brown. Marquette University professor, has a film in the festival, Operation Wolf Patrol, but there are community members here, and there's a great growing community of filmmakers here, and a new program that Milwaukee Film is working on that you'll hear more about next year is we're doing a qualitative and quantitative economic study of filmmaking in the M7 region, and hopefully developing a strategic plan for how best to grow it. So really excited about that real economic initiative. In addition, we do forums throughout the festival. Seeing these great films is just the beginning. We strive to present conversations for the community. Loose audience-driven conversations where you'll go to a local bar or a restaurant and a facilitator will help you talk about the film you just saw, or an educator expert-driven panel that'll dive in depth into the subject matter of a film. I look at a film we showed last year, Most Likely to Succeed, around a new education programming, and we did two really substantive panels around that have had a life of their own after the film festival, and it makes us proud to be able to convene and present those types of conversations. The audience for the film festival, it's actually really savvy and maybe not what people might typically think for a film festival. It aligns very closely with traditional arts and culture groups. 61% of household income is over 50%. Over 50,000, and then almost half of our audience is between the ages of 45 and 64. Additionally, in terms of home ownership, 71% of our audience has homes, 68% is female. I've always had a couple of theories on this, not scientific, but one of the theories is there's been a lot of conversations about both lack of diversity and lack of actual female-driven producers, directors in the Hollywood system. So the film festival content, which is primarily independently made and produced, is much more diverse in its origin. So thought that, it's possibly more satisfying to the female audience. As well, it's a very well-educated audience. 76% of the audience holds a bachelor's degree. In terms of the audience response to the festival, our survey feedback is phenomenal every year. 99% last year were likely to recommend the festival to their friends, which is just, I think, a very positive testament to the experience we provide at the festival. You'll see the people who are really happy are the ones with that pass lanyard that they're wearing. A pass means you don't have to have a ticket for any show in the festival. You can literally walk in as long as you're there 15 minutes before it starts and be guaranteed seat into any house. And so it's like, we like to call it the golden ticket of the festival. They're the ones that write really good survey feedback. Additionally, excitingly, one of the unique aspects of the festival, I think, and that sets us apart from our peers is that we were founded by sort of institutional philanthropists, community leaders, politicians, and supporters that don't normally typically start film festivals. Festivals are usually started by filmmakers and their friends. But we were started out as a major effort to help convene, enliven Milwaukee through cinema. One aspect of supporting the festival that's very exciting is our membership base. And so one of the pieces you have in front of you is our membership brochure. And so individual members of the festival get to see a movie free every month at the Oriental Theater. They get the best ticket discounts. They get a free, the first open day of the box office is exclusively for members. We now will sell out several films on that day. We announced earlier this year that we had received support from a national film organization. Does anyone know what that organization was? First words, let's see here. The first word is Academy. Any takers? There we go. Who said that? There we go. This is yours. We can get it afterwards. But we had announced earlier this year that we were one of 16 festivals in the world to receive support from the Oscars. And, and so they're actually supporting financially our Black Lens program, which is in its third year. This is a program that is one of its kind in the country, and it focuses exclusively on featuring the work of African American filmmakers, so they're actually the filmmakers of it. You'll find a lot of African American themed programs, but usually it's purely about the representation on screen, but this is actually honoring the filmmaker themselves. And so 2 trains running. The director of that, Sam Pollard, will be at the festival this year, but you'll also be able to see it at the member screening next Wednesday. So in addition, one of the key aspects to the festival's growth, I think, is the wide partnerships we have in the community. So we'll have somewhere around 300 individual businesses, nonprofits, community groups that will connect directly to an individual film in the festival. And it's a non-financial relationship, and it's about connecting their audience and their message and their employees with content that's similar to their goals or their products or their business, and they help outreach it for us, and we give them free tickets to the screening and thank them before the screening as well. But as you'll see, we only got to see on the slide here, and we won't have to go through all the rest. Hopefully you'll hear a lot about us. Every September, we've started some of our ads now, but we have such great partnerships throughout the community. Almost all of the advertising is trade relationships with various media outlets throughout Milwaukee that give us a great high level of visibility. And finally, wanted to share a quote from John Ridley, who was a signature guest of the festival in 2014. There are so many concerns in daily life, and they're all important, but art is important too. Art is the stories we tell. Art is who we are, and it only happens through the patrons and supporters. So John Ridley came and presented Milwaukee native film at the festival in 2014, and he's actually continued to stay deeply engaged in the festival, and we'll have some exciting announcements in the coming weeks about his engagement at this year's festival as well. So very excited about that relationship, and just in general, the growth of the festival and the potential with such a vibrant filmmaking scene here, such a great board of directors for Milwaukee Film, now 31 people, the tremendous volunteers, over 300 annually, and our great staff, which we have a few staff members here. They stood up earlier. Hi guys. But we have now We now have 15 year-round full-time staff, and we balloon up to about 125 to execute the festival itself. So that ends the formal part of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions. I was encouraged to take questions. Heard it's a lively group. But I also, if people wanted to, I had a few other trailers that I queued up that we could show too. But are there any questions? Yes?
You mentioned John Ridley, and I don't know if everybody here make sure that you announced that he is the son of our member, Dr. John Ridley, and film that he directed or was required for him.
Past president John Ridley Sr. Is the father of John Ridley Jr. And John screened a film called Jimmy All Is By My Side as the centerpiece film of the 2014 festival, a fictional biopic of the life of Jimi Hendrix starring Andre Benjamin of Outkast. But John also has a television series on ABC, American Crime, that's been renewed for a third season. He also has a television series in development, in production with Showtime and Sky International. That's also going to become quite a visible program. And he won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave for writing it. Yes?
How do you screen all these films to determine which will be included in the festival?
Excellent question. So we have on our staff, I think upwards of 20 people participated in the process. And when I talk about the 15 programs, that's a really important piece of understanding how we select the films. So, for instance, the sports ball program, we'll simply look at and try to look at every single contemporary sports-themed movie made in the last 2 years. And we really use as a barometer that, our own opinion in terms of, is this a quality film? Will Milwaukee enjoy this film? But we also try to highlight which films are most popular on the festival circuit. So which films are showing at the most film festivals around the world, which have won awards, or which got critical favorites. But each of those 15 programs has sort of a different program philosophy. There's an endless amount of films out there today. I mean, annually the Sundance Film Festival is 10,000 plus submissions for 150 slots. So there are tons and tons and tons of films out there. It's impossible for us to watch them all, but guiding on those individual programs and using a benchmark of trying to be a best of festival, it helps to sort through some of the material to pick what we'll show here. Yes?
Are all of your films recent, or do you do some historical?
Great question. Are all of our films historical, or do we do recent films? Are all of our films recent, or do we do historical films? We'd love to screen classic films. This year, I think we've announced a portion of what we're going to show. We've shown movies as diverse as Dr. Strangelove by Stanley Kubrick, Jaws by Steven Spielberg, Wings of Desire by Wim Wenders. So really run the gamut in terms of different classic films that we'll show. This year, in partnership with the Milwaukee Art Museum, we'll be presenting Metropolis, which is considered one of the greatest films ever made. It's a silent film made in 1927 by Fritz Lang. The art museum in the, I think it opens in maybe November, is going to have their featured exhibit is going to be called Hunted Screens. And it's going to showcase primarily 4 individual German Expressionism films. And the experience of going to the exhibit is actually walk through these incredible sets that were created for these films. And so as a precursor to that, we're going to show Metropolis, and we're actually going to have a live orchestra accompany it at the Oriental Theater. And it's just a truly amazing experience to see that in the Oriental, but we also screen more contemporary classic, quote unquote, classic films as well. Yes?
How many of the new films go on to commercial success? Does any of that happen here in Milwaukee after the film?
So a question about the commercial success of the films. Does the festival aid in that help? It's a great question that's really hard to answer because there's so little knowledge as to which films are technically successful now. The industry has changed dramatically over the last 10 years from it being very successful for independent films, both in release and on DVD. But when DVD dried up and when movie theater attendance at a particularly independent venues started to drop a little bit, the revenue streams for films had dried up. But now they've started to be able to monetize on-demand films, viewings, and screenings, and so more and more films are actually doing pretty successful by being picked up by Netflix and Amazon. But the documentation of this isn't public or out there yet, so it's a bit of a question mark. For Milwaukee, what we strive to do is to focus our support and our industry support on the Milwaukee filmmakers. And so we give significant cash prizes to Milwaukee filmmakers at the festival. We help with professional development year-round with filmmakers, monthly events that we now do, as well as granting programs. So it's not necessarily an industry event on the likes of Sundance where a film will be sold for $20 million, but we do focus on developing the Milwaukee film industry here. Yes? I certainly hope they'll coexist happily, but it's a great question. It's a question about how has the new sort of, I don't know, I want to call it the golden age, but that's not really. Television today is extraordinary with the likes of what originally HBO had done, but now also all the on-demand platforms have done. And it's absolutely competing with the film viewing audience. This is something I didn't mention in my talk, but that question reminds me of it, and I should have. What we treasure at Milwaukee Film is communal viewing. And so when you're watching a television series and you're binding into those characters and it's extending over 6 episodes, 10, 12, multiple seasons in a row, which I very much enjoy myself as well, you're doing it alone or with your partner or with your family. When we present films at the festival, you're viewing it as a community. And you don't often get to do that anymore when you go to the movies unless you're going on Friday night and it's a superhero film. So at the festival, you get to go experience a film, a documentary, a fiction film with 200, 300, 500, 1,000 of your community members. And it's that communal energy and experience is what drives the festival, and I think what differentiates it from the individual television viewing experience. But it's not only televisions, it's also video games that are competing with the film industry more and more from a talent perspective. Because now the actors, the technicians are working as much in those fields as they are in film. And so there is definite competition with that, but prioritizing that communal experience is what I think keeps us going strong. Yes? Excellent question. So, in particular on the actual groups you had mentioned, our staff is actually made of African Americans and Hispanics who actually select the programs and the films that are presented in that area. But also, as a program curator or as a curator of an art museum would, or of any cultural institution, you are trained to have that perspective beyond, just your own eyeballs and your own experience. And you're looking at all the films that are out there in the world today. And if the festival were being programmed just to my own taste or to our programmers' taste, it primarily would be 3-hour Hungarian black and white films. But we, not just Hungarian, but maybe Eastern European in general. But we do strive for that diversity, and we work with not only the 20 team members who are of actually a very diverse origin, but we have a volunteer panel that is made up of members of the festival who come in, as well as teachers at the universities in Milwaukee, who come in and donate their time and come in on like a Tuesday night and watch 2 movies for months leading up to the festival to help try to diversify the selection of the festival.
Films have evolved.
Is the film festival a window into where filmmaking is going, particularly technology? I like to think it is. I would focus on 2 types of programs that we do. One, last year, we were one of the first film festivals around the country to feature VR technology, virtual reality technology. We'll do that again at this year's festival. Separate to the festival, at our panels lounge area, you'll be able to experience cutting-edge virtual reality technology as well as films that have been made on this technology and this platform. In addition to that, I would highly recommend the shorts programs at the festival. So there's both local short film programs, but then we feature 8 programs of international short filmmaking. And these are artists who, they're not necessarily just trying to make a feature film. Their art form is the short film, and because it doesn't have to be as big a budget, and because it doesn't have to necessarily work over the course of an hour and a half, you can do something in 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes that is going to lead to sort of, potentially a next evolution in filmmaking. So there's, definitely cutting edge content in the shorts programs for the festival. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having me.
An MCM production.